No one screamed when Aisha Monroe tried to save his life. They laughed. Standing there in a soaked janitor's uniform, hands shaking, heart racing, she watched a room full of powerful men decide she was nothing. Not wrong, not mistaken, just invisible. A black woman who didn't know her place. And in that exact moment, Aisha understood something terrifying. If she stayed silent, a man would die. If she spoke, she would be destroyed. Her warning was ignored. Her dignity was crushed. Security dragged her away while the helicopter blades above began to spin, counting down to a death no one believed she could see coming. Fear clawed at her chest. Anger burned in her throat, and beneath it all was a single unbearable truth. The world was about to learn what happens when it refuses to listen to a black woman telling the truth. Stay with me, because what Aisha does next will shock everyone and change lives forever. No one ever noticed Aisha Monroe when she cleaned the executive floor of Caldwell Tower, and that, she had learned, was the point. At 5:58 in the evening, the 52nd floor of the glass tower in downtown Chicago glowed like a shrine to power. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the skyline, the lake reflecting the last streaks of sunset. Inside the executive boardroom, men in tailored suits laughed too loudly, their voices heavy with confidence and entitlement. Crystal glasses clinked. A deal worth billions had just been sealed. Aisha moved quietly along the edge of the room, pushing a silver cart, collecting empty glasses no one remembered finishing. Her uniform was gray. Her hair was pulled back tight. Her badge read Facilities, though most people never bothered to read it. To them, she wasn't a person. She was background. She was used to it. At 28, Aisha had mastered the art of being invisible. You learned quickly when you were a black woman cleaning up after powerful white executives. Don't make eye contact. Don't speak unless spoken to. Don't exist any more than necessary. In buildings like this, silence was safety. At the head of the table stood Ethan Caldwell, 34, self-made billionaire. Media favorite, the kind of man magazines called visionary and fearless. His suit alone probably cost more than Aisha made in 6 months. He raised his glass again, smiling as cameras flashed. To the future, Ethan said, his voice smooth, practiced. To expansion, to growth, and to partnerships that will change everything. Across from him, two men nodded. Kareem and Faris al-Rashid, brothers, investors. Quiet power. They smiled politely, but Aisha noticed something most people didn't. Their eyes didn't smile. She paused briefly behind their chairs, wiping a small spill on the polished wood floor. That's when the room shifted. The laughter dipped. The music from the hidden speakers softened. Just enough. Kareem leaned toward his brother and spoke in Arabic. Low, casual, confident. Aisha froze. Her hand tightened around the cloth. Most people assumed she didn't understand a word. Why would she? A black janitor in Chicago. But language had been her grandfather Hassan Monroe's obsession. He had escaped war with nothing but books and stories. He used to say, if you understand what powerful men say when they think you can't hear them, you'll never truly be powerless. Kareem's words slid into Aisha's mind with terrifying clarity. Once he boards the helicopter, the hydraulic system will fail. Her heart slammed. Faris answered without hesitation. An unfortunate accident. The company will be ours before sunrise. The world tilted. Aisha's breath caught so sharply it hurt. For a second, she wondered if she'd imagined it. But then Kareem continued, calm as discussing dinner reservations. Everything is already arranged. Her knees weakened. They were talking about murder, about Ethan Caldwell, about tonight. Aisha looked up. Ethan was laughing, oblivious, shaking hands with advisors. He had no idea the men beside him had already decided how he would die. No idea that the celebration around him was a countdown. Her mind screamed, run, stay quiet, walk away. That was the rule. People like her didn't interrupt billionaires. People like her didn't accuse powerful men. And people like her, black, poor, invisible, weren't believed even when they told the truth. If she spoke, she would be humiliated, fired, maybe worse. She thought of her mother at home, sick depending on her paycheck. Thought of every time she'd swallowed her pride just to survive. But then she remembered her grandfather's voice, steady and unyielding. Silence doesn't protect you, it just protects them. Aisha dropped the cloth. The sound was soft, but to her it felt like a gunshot. She turned and walked straight toward Ethan Caldwell. The room went still as her presence finally registered. Not as a person, but as a disruption. "Yes?" Ethan said, distracted, irritation already creeping into his tone. His eyes flicked to her uniform, then away. "This isn't the time." Aisha's hands trembled, but she forced herself to speak. "Sir, please, do not get on that helicopter." The room froze. A few people laughed awkwardly. Ethan blinked, disbelief flashing across his face. "Excuse me?" "They're lying to you," Aisha said, her voice breaking but loud enough. It's a trap. I heard them. They plan to kill you." The silence that followed was brutal. Kareem slowly turned toward her, his smile thin, dangerous. Ferris scoffed openly. Ethan stared at her hand, still gripping his sleeve, as if her touch itself offended him. He pulled back sharply. "Are you serious right now?" he said, his voice hardening. "Security?" A murmur rippled through the room. Some faces looked amused, others uncomfortable. No one looked concerned. "A black janitor thinks she understands international business?" Someone muttered under their breath. Aisha swallowed. "I speak Arabic," she said. "I understood every word." Kareem laughed softly. "This is absurd," he said. "Your employee is clearly confused." Confused, crazy, hysterical. Aisha had heard it all before. Ethan's jaw tightened, not in fear but in embarrassment. "Get her out of here," he snapped. "Now!" Two security guards grabbed Aisha by the arms. "Sir, please," she begged, panic rising. "If you get on that helicopter, you will die." Ethan didn't even look at her. "I don't take threats from staff who don't know their place." That sentence hit harder than any shove. As she was dragged toward the door, Aisha's eyes locked onto Ethan one last time. He looked powerful, untouchable, exactly the kind of man who never thought the warning would come from someone like her, and exactly the kind of man who would pay for that mistake. The elevator doors slid closed behind them. Above, the helicopter blades began to turn, and Aisha Monroe knew she had seconds left to decide how much her voice was worth. "Do you think Ethan deserves to be saved after the way he treated her? Yes or no? And be honest, have you ever ignored someone's warning because of who they were? Stay with me, because what Aisha does next changes everything." The first sound was the alarm. It ripped through Caldwell Tower like a scream that refused to be ignored. Aisha Monroe didn't hesitate after the elevator doors closed behind Ethan Caldwell. Her heart pounded so hard it felt like it might tear through her chest, but her feet moved anyway, fast, deliberate, toward the red glass box at the end of the corridor. The fire alarm. She stared at it for half a second. One pull and everything would change. The building would shut down. The helicopter would be grounded. She would be arrested, fired, possibly charged. She could already hear Ethan's voice in her head, angry, mocking, dismissive. "I don't take threats from staff who don't know their place." Her fingers curled. Glass shattered. The alarm exploded into life. Sirens howled. Sprinklers burst open, dumping cold, filthy water onto the marble floors. Red emergency lights flashed, turning the hallway into a strobe-lit nightmare. Security shouted. Radios crackled. Somewhere above, the helicopter blades slowed, then stopped. Aisha slid down against the wall as guards grabbed her, cuffs biting into her wrists. Water soaked her uniform, plastering it to her skin. She shivered, not from the cold, but from the certainty settling deep in her bones. He's alive, for now. They dragged her through the chaos, past drenched executives, past assistants clutching tablets, past people who stared at her like she was a criminal instead of the reason they were still breathing. In the grand lobby, Ethan Caldwell stormed toward her, fury radiating off him. "Are you insane?" he shouted. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Aisha lifted her chin, water dripping from her hair. "I saved your life." That only made him angrier. "You embarrassed me," he snapped, "in front of everyone. You cost this company millions." Kareem and Faris al-Rashid stood just behind him, calm, composed, too calm. Their eyes flicked toward Aisha, sharp and assessing, like hunters reevaluating prey. "Sir," Kareem said smoothly. This is unfortunate, but perhaps we should leave. Clearly your employee is unstable. Unstable. The word landed exactly where it was meant to. Ethan nodded. Get her out of my sight. Call the police. As guards pulled her away, Aisha twisted her body just enough to look straight at Ferris. Then she spoke, in Arabic, clear, precise. The fall of the king feeds the jackals. The effect was instant. Ferris went pale. Kareem stiffened. Ethan saw it. He didn't understand the words, but he understood fear. Real fear. The kind men like Kareem never showed unless something had gone terribly wrong. What did you just say? Ethan asked slowly. Aisha didn't look at him. Ask them. Silence spread across the lobby, thick and heavy. Sirens wailed outside. Cameras from news crews pressed against the glass doors. Ethan raised a hand. Let her go. The guards hesitated. I said let her go. They unlocked the cuffs. Aisha rubbed her wrists, never breaking eye contact with the al-Rashid brothers. Ethan turned to them. You two are coming with me, in my car. Kareem smiled tightly. There's no need. We'll take our own. My car, Ethan repeated. Now. They couldn't refuse without confirming everything. Minutes later, they were sealed inside the armored back seat of Ethan's black sedan. The city slid past the windows, slick with rain and neon reflections. The tension inside the car was suffocating. Aisha sat across from them on the fold-down seat, soaked, shaking, but alert. She could feel the weight of their stares, resentment, calculation, hatred. Ethan broke the silence. You said you heard them plan my death. Yes. In Arabic. Yes. Kareem chuckled. You're going to trust a janitor over us? Aisha flinched, but Ethan's gaze hardened. I'm trusting my instincts, and right now they're screaming. The car slowed near the Lakeshore Drive tunnel. That's when Ferris moved, too fast. Metal flashed. A suppressed gun emerged from his jacket. Aisha screamed, Gun! The driver swerved violently. The shot fired, muffled, deadly, slamming into the leather seat inches from where Ethan's head had been. Chaos erupted. Ethan lunged. Kareem grabbed him. The car fishtailed. Tires screamed. Aisha didn't think. She acted. She snatched the glass water bottle from the console and smashed it into Ferris's wrist. Bone cracked. The gun clattered to the floor. Ethan elbowed Kareem hard, breaking free. Don't move, Aisha shouted, pointing the weapon with shaking hands. Don't move or I swear. They froze. The driver accelerated, bursting out of traffic as police lights appeared ahead. Ethan stared at Aisha, really stared at her, for the first time. Not as staff, not as a problem, as the woman who had just saved his life twice. Later on the roadside, with the al-Rashid brothers in handcuffs and sirens cutting through the night, Ethan draped his suit jacket over Aisha's shoulders. I didn't listen, he said quietly, because of who you are, and I was wrong. Aisha met his eyes. People like me always know the truth first. We just aren't believed. He nodded, shame heavy in his expression. In that moment, power shifted. Not with money, not with contracts, but with a voice that refused to stay silent. The night ended on the side of the highway, beneath flashing red and blue lights that painted everything in truth. Kareem and Faris al-Rashid were pulled from the car in silence, their tailored suits soaked, their authority stripped away in front of cameras and officers who no longer bowed their heads. The men who had spoken about murder as casually as business strategy now stood handcuffed, exposed, furious, and defeated. Aisha Monroe watched from a few steps back, wrapped in Ethan Caldwell's jacket, her hands still trembling slightly. The adrenaline was fading, replaced by a deep, bone-level exhaustion. Not the kind that sleep fixes, the kind that comes from carrying fear, dignity, and restraint for far too long. Ethan stood beside her, answering questions, handing over the phone with the Arabic messages, replaying the recording that sealed the brothers' fate. When it was finally over, when the police cars pulled away and the highway returned to its distant hum, he turned to Aisha. I owe you my life, he said quietly. Aisha didn't respond right away. She thought of the boardroom, of the laughter, of his voice when he said, know your place. She thought of every time she'd been talked over, doubted, dismissed, not just by him, but by a system that looked at her skin, before it looked at her words. "You didn't believe me," she said finally. "Not until powerful men were afraid." Ethan lowered his gaze. "You're right." For a man who had built his empire on certainty, admitting that wasn't easy, but he didn't rush to explain himself. He didn't defend his reaction. He stood there and let the weight of it sit. "I've spent my life listening only to voices that sound like mine," he said. "Tonight, that almost killed me." They rode back to the city in silence. The next morning, Caldwell Tower was unrecognizable. News headlines exploded across screens. Billionaire CEO targeted in corporate assassination plot. Janitor's warning saves CEO's life. Racial bias nearly turns deadly. Aisha didn't go to work. She expected a termination notice. Maybe legal trouble. Maybe nothing at all. Instead, she got a call. "Come to my office," Ethan said. "Please." She hesitated before stepping back into the building that had treated her like air. This time, heads turned. People whispered. Some stared with admiration, others with discomfort. The boardroom doors closed behind them. Ethan didn't sit at the head of the table. He pulled out a chair for her instead. "I'm not offering you hush money," he said, as if reading her thoughts. "And I'm not asking you to forgive me." He slid a folder across the table. Inside was an offer. Tuition paid, a new role as cultural and language advisor, a salary that felt unreal. But Aisha didn't look impressed. "I don't want charity," she said calmly. Ethan nodded. "Neither would I." He closed the folder. "This isn't charity. This is accountability. I built a system that didn't hear you. I need someone inside it who will." Aisha thought of her grandfather, of his words. "If you stay silent, you teach the world how to treat you." She met Ethan's eyes. "I will never be silent again." "Good," he said, "because neither will I." Weeks passed. Charges were filed. The Al-Rashid Empire unraveled. Their influence evaporated under investigation. And something else changed. Slower, quieter, but just as important. Caldwell Industries implemented policies that no press release could fake. Training that didn't just check boxes. Promotion paths that didn't quietly stop at invisible ceilings. Listening sessions where voices like Aisha's were not invited as symbols, but respected as truth. It wasn't perfect. Change never is, but it was real. One afternoon, Aisha stood alone at Oakwood Memorial Cemetery. The city noise felt far away here. She placed fresh flowers at a modest headstone. "Grandpa," she whispered, "you were right. The language wasn't just words." The wind moved through the trees, gentle and steady, like an answer. She left the cemetery walking taller than she ever had before, not because the world had suddenly become fair, but because she no longer shrank to fit inside its prejudice. Months later, during an interview, a reporter asked Ethan Caldwell what lesson the ordeal had taught him. He paused, then said that the most dangerous bias isn't hatred, it's dismissal, and the bravest people are often the ones we're taught not to see. Aisha watched from the sidelines, not smiling, not nodding, just present. Seen. He hadn't saved her. She had saved herself. And in doing so, she had forced a powerful man, and maybe a few thousand viewers, to confront something uncomfortable, something necessary. That sometimes the truth comes from voices society tells you to ignore, and when you finally listen, it can change everything. Before we end, I want to ask you something. How did this story make you feel? Did it move you, yes or no? Do you think stories like this can change how people see racial bias? Yes or no? If you like this story and want more stories like it, comment 111 below. Also tell me, which country are you watching from? And if this story meant something to you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it, because voices like Aisha's deserve to be heard.